How do your friends change you? By the end of this video, we're going to share with you some ways that the friends you have can completely change the course of your life, and how you can actually do something about choosing your friends. Please interact with us. Please comment. If you're watching on a TV, maybe you could pull out your phone and connect with us there so you can add some of your own comments. But let's have a bit of a challenge, a bit of a quiz. How many close friends do you think it's possible for the average person to have? How many close friends? Just type your answers in. What do you reckon? Close friends. 15. Robin Dunbar, an anthropologist, has found 15. Close friends is the most that most people can handle. How many friends? So not close friends that you'd share trusted information with, but how many people would you be able to maintain a friendship with? What do you think? Again, let us know what you think. How many friends could a person have? Well, Robin Dunbar, the same anthropologist, 150 is his number, which is interesting considering the number of Facebook friends that people have, averages at 338. Now, that's the number of friends we might be able to have, but how long does it take to make a friend? What do you think? How many hours would you need to make just a casual friend? 40 hours is it one study found. 40 hours to make a friend. And then how many hours to make a really close friend? You know, one of those 15 people in someone's life. How many hours do you think? Well, this same study found that it takes about 200 hours to make that sort of friendship. So that's like an hour a week for 2 years. Now, that starts to tell me something about we can be intentional about making friends by investing our time and energy into people. And if you're a bit like me, you might feel a bit insecure at this point, trying to think of your friends and are they close friends? Do they like me? Maybe you like me. But I made a decision this week to think about who are the people in my life that I would like to have more to do with. Who would I like to consider a friend? And there was this one guy that I thought of, and the next time I saw him, I was a bit more intentional because I was thinking of him as a friend. And it was funny how that worked out, that by the end of it, we had a really good conversation and really felt our friendship deepen just because of my attitude towards him was a bit more intentional. Which brings us to Jess now. She's going to talk about how we can choose our friends wisely and how our friends can really make a big difference in our lives.
Hey everyone, it's so good to be talking with you today, and I get to talk about something that's really close to my heart, something I really believe is really important. So we're going to launch in. Now, if you've got one of these, I have no doubt you have, a device of some description, you're watching on a device of some description. I think phones, if you think about it, they're just so amazing. You know, years ago, it would have blown our minds that we would have something in our pocket that could do as much as what this thing can do, you know. And if you take away like the internet and phone capabilities of this device, it can do quite a few things. You know, I've got a flashlight on here, I've got a clock and a calculator and a camera and books and all sorts of things just on its own. It's pretty powerful, but it really reaches its full capacity when it's connected in, when it connects to that network then it's a device that can connect me with people. I can call people, I can text people, I can watch TV shows, I can get onto social media and have a look at things, I can send emails. There's so much more capability to it when it's connected to a network. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is that we are all better. We have more capability, we have more capacity when we're connected into a network. But I want to talk to you about which network is the right one for you. So to do that, we're going to start off by looking at a video of people doing an experiment. There was a bunch of people, a bunch of actors at an eye clinic. And one unsuspecting subject, the girl in the purple jacket who was there to actually receive her free eye appointment, did not know. She was in the middle of an experiment. So have a look. So the people around us can have a pretty powerful effect, right? So she stood up every time that buzz went off, even though it was not a rule, it was not a thing, but she followed the crowd and she stood up. And I put my hand up. I would do the same. I am a rule follower. So that would be me. No doubt I would be up doing what everyone else is doing. I don't want to be the odd one out. I wonder if that's you, or if you would have been the rebel that would have stayed seated. But I think what it shows us is that the people around us can have such a powerful effect on us. And what's interesting is that experiment goes on, and as all the patients, the real actual patients, non-actors, came into the scene, she continued standing up and she affected everybody else. They all stood up as well. It's powerful. But what we also know about that is it can be powerfully bad when and if the majority of the people around us get it wrong or behave badly. And the illustration shows that most people would rather be wrong with the group than right on their own. We're affected by the people around us. So our purpose in these videos, in these chats that we're having, is it's about helping us to recenter our lives and our focus back on Jesus and what that does for us when we do that. It's going back to the basics and helping us to establish or grow in our relationship with God by being like Jesus and by practicing some of the habits that he has shown us in his life through what we read in the Bible. In another video, Darren talks to us about the importance of habits and how they can really shape who we are. You know, just changing that 1 little percent and doing that on a regular basis can change our lives. It can help us to grow and be fruitful by just changing a few little things. So that's what we're going to continue to talk about today. So each of the habits that we'll be addressing, and today I am talking about one of those, on their own are great, but you know, we need those little small habits done consistently over time to produce the big changes. We can do a habit for a little while and give up. It's when we continue on for the long haul that it makes the difference. A key verse from the Bible for this theme is actually from Matthew 11 verse 29, and it says this: "Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it and learn the unforced rhythms of grace." I love that, the unforced rhythms of grace. I don't know if you've heard of Rick Warren. He's a really influential church leader in the States, and many years ago he talked about this, and he said, if you want to have Christ-like character, then you develop the habits that Christ had. All of us are simply a bundle of habits, and our goal is to help you replace some bad habits with good habits that will help you grow to be like Jesus. So he sums it up. He says that our character is the sum of our habits. And I don't know about you, but that scares me a little bit, because I know some of the habits that I have, and they're not all good. Some of them are quite bad. So what this is about is replacing some of those bad ones with good ones that are going to help us walk along a good direction. So today I want to talk about the first habit that we think is really important, that Jesus displays in the Bible, and that is that Jesus was committed to community. So it's clear in the Bible that Jesus began his ministry, and one of the first things he did was go out and find some people to do life with. You know, I think if anyone could have walked this earth and achieved the purposes and life goals in an amazing capacity, I think it would have been Jesus. I think he would have been able to do it by his own and had great success with that. But what's the first thing that he does when he enters this ministry phase of his life? He goes out and he looks for people to do life with. Because of this truth, you are not meant to be alone. I think we've seen that through this pandemic that we've been in. We are not meant to do life alone. We are meant to be in connection with each other. At the beginning of the Bible, God makes this clear. In Genesis chapter 2, it says this. God says it is not good for the man to be alone. He just created Adam. It's like it's not good for him just to be on his own here. He needs someone. He needs a companion. So he made Eve so that Adam and Eve would be in community with him. You are made to be in community. So Jesus, the only person who could have had great success on this earth on their own, committed to a community of people. But before you go out there and just start making any relationship, we talked at the beginning about the phone, and what network you're connected to. It's important to consider what network, what relationships, what community you're getting involved in. I don't want you to commit to just any community. I want you to commit to a certain type of community because your community influences you. And we saw that in the experiment. King Solomon has written a bunch of amazing proverbs, wisdom, in the book of Proverbs. They're all collated. And in chapter 13, verse 20, it says this: if you walk with the wise, you will become wise. And I think we all want that. But a companion of fools suffers harm. I don't think we want that. So the people we surround ourselves with can influence us for good, in a good direction, or in a bad direction. Here's a couple of examples that I think we've all been involved in. So, the people we're around with, our friends, our family, can affect how we use our finances. Social media is a great example. We see on social media all the best bits, right? Sometimes the fake bits about people's lives, but all their purchases, their acquisitions, their holidays, all the cool things that they maybe have spent money on, the restaurants they go to, the nights out, the experiences. We see all that. And of course, we want to be like our friends. We want to have similar experiences. So that can draw us into that world of spending money, keeping up with the Joneses, or feeling like we need to be able to, to be that person's friend. We've got to be able to spend the money, go to the restaurants or whatever it might be. So they're thinking about the now, not necessarily about the future. And if you want to be future thinking people, in terms of career and savings and investment, then you need to be influenced in a different way. You need to be that kind of person who saves money, has a budget. So the people we're with, the people that are surrounding us, can have an impact on how we're spending our money. The other thing that we know is that the closer that you are to someone, the more alike to them, the more they rub off on you. And so, my husband Carl and I, we can influence each other and we can make each other better because we're very close to each other. And we have these Apple Watches that we got end of last year. And we've had them for 6 months now. And, you might think, oh, that's nice. It's a nice little purchase. You just talked about saving money and you've just gone and bought these Apple Watches. Well, they were actually free. And I say it in inverted commas because there is a cost, but it's not financial necessarily. So our life insurance plan had this scheme where they would give you an Apple Watch, which you could pay off over time in exercise. So we have to achieve a certain amount of exercise and therefore points in a week. And if we do that, we don't have to make a payment towards our watch. So for the last 6 months, we have been actively exercising 5 to 6 times a week, and so haven't had to put any money into the watch. And what has that done? It's obviously made us fitter. But I can tell you that if we didn't have someone to do the exercise with, we would definitely have spent money on these watches. We would have just gone, look, let's just pay it this week. Over Christmas, oh my goodness, let's just pay it this week. But no, we get each other up in the morning, we go for a run, or late at night, we need our points, we go for a run. So we are influencing each other for good. And I know, hopefully you've had the experience at some point where you've had a group of people around you that have influenced you to do something good, to exercise together or to save money or whatever it might be. But people around you make a huge difference. So we need to identify who those people are. And studies have shown us that 95% of our success or failure in life is determined by the people that we habitually associate with. And that's really important because what that means is that there is no greater predictor of future you than the community of current you. Have a think about that. I think that is an awesome statement. There is no better predictor of future you, who you're going to be, then if you look around and look at the community of current you, we are influenced by people all the time. So if you're trying to instill any habit into your life, and there's other habits that these videos are going to address, which is things like prayer and solitude and choosing church and reading the Bible. There's all great habits that you can instill into your life. But there's no, and you might be able to instill them into your life by yourself, but it's a little bit like trying to walk up an escalator that's moving down. You'll get to the top, but it's going to be a lot harder than if you try and do it in a group. If you're in a group, if you're in community, and they are cheering you on and encouraging you and supporting you and helping you when you fail and you've got to get back up again, then the other habits that you're trying to instill, you're going to do much better at because you're doing it with other people. So what if your community could point you to Jesus, propel you towards him? So we need to identify those people in our life, or actually make a move to have people in our life that can point us towards Jesus, that can move us towards that place. And we can learn about that from looking at the life of Jesus and his community. So Jesus actually had a bunch of different communities. So it shows us in the Bible that he had a bunch of different groups that he was involved in. He had big groups of 500. Well, he actually had groups of thousands that he preached to, but the people that were inputting into his life and that he was inputting into more closely, there was a group of 500 that the Bible talks about. There was a group of 72 that he spent more time with and gave them instructions to go out and do different things. There was the 12 disciples, which you may have heard of, so a group of 12 that he was regularly with and would pull aside and talk through things and tell them stories and spend time with. But there was also another three that were in his inner circle, and they were Peter, John, and James. They were the three in his inner circle, and he spent quite a bit of time with them. In one of the books of the Bible, the book of Matthew, it's a gospel, we see Jesus taking these three aside 3 different times, and they had that greater access to Jesus and walked more closely with him. And you might think, hey, if they were Jesus' friends, these guys must have been perfection. They must have been awesome guys who were intellectual and spiritual, like pretty much saints. But the Bible is pretty clear that these 3 guys were very imperfect. They had lots of issues that they needed to work on. In Acts chapter 4, Peter and John are described as unschooled, ordinary men. Ordinary, just like you and me, ordinary. And all 3 of them, Peter, James, and John, were all pretty hot-tempered at times. It talks in the Bible about the different times when you can see their temper kind of come out. So Peter cut the ear off a guard in the garden one night. There was guards coming at them and accusing Jesus of stuff, and he just got out his sword and slashed off that ear. Well, Jesus had to kind of pick up the pieces. He actually had to mend the ear, put the ear back on. I don't know how you'd feel if that was you. Peter, put your sword away. I now got to fix this ear on this guy. He was a hothead. He also denied that he knew Jesus at a really pivotal time. He was like, nah, I don't know that man. He let Jesus down in that regard. James and John were known as the Sons of Thunder. That was their nickname. And they wanted to call down fire on a village that didn't welcome Jesus. They just wanted to burn him up. Hotheads. And all 3 of them fell asleep when they were supposed to be praying for Jesus just before his death. Couldn't support him, couldn't wake up. They were asleep in the garden when they were supposed to be praying. But here's what this shows me. This is Jesus' community. And you'd think that he'd have the greatest group, the most perfect people around him, but he didn't. He was committed to community, but he knew that that would mean mess and that would mean imperfection. And he knew that it would be tough at times and awkward. Same for us. The community around us will not always get it right. It will absolutely be imperfect because all of us are imperfect. And we bring that to the table when we're in community with each other. But these 3, and you could argue the 12, the 72, the 500, they did have something in common. Something that did draw them together. And that was they were right on the cause of Jesus. They knew that Jesus was the one. They were on the same mission. They followed him. And that was the glue that held them together. So your community, won't always be easy. As you gather in groups, as you find people that are going to point you towards Jesus, that does not mean they're going to be perfect. They're totally going to rub you up the wrong way. They're going to offend you. There's going to be conflict because we're all people and we've all got junk that we're dealing with. But the question I have for you quite simply is, do you have a community? And is that community pointing you towards Jesus? Is it pointing you in the right direction? Because likely if your community is pointing you towards Jesus, then you'll be going in that direction towards Jesus too. But if it's not, if it's pulling you away from Jesus, then you need to consider, is that where I want to go? Is that where I want to be? Do I want to drift? Do I want to be pulled away? Or do I want to be surrounded by people who are going to point me in the direction of Jesus? So the challenge for you this week, out of this video, is this. Is my community pointing me to Jesus? Am I learning more? Am I understanding who he is? Am I being cheered and supported in my life? Are they helping me to become the best that I can be? Which is, of course, what Jesus wants for you. And you might be sitting there going, I don't have a community. I'm lonely. I feel disconnected. I don't have that network. Well, I think that there are things you can do. There are things you can do, and you are listening to this video, you're watching this video right now, and it's not just a video, it's not just a one-off, it's actually a reflection of a community of people that want to be there for you. They want to be there, and if you are wanting to take another step, then maybe right now you can send a message, you can write in a comment, you can say, hey, I want community. I want to be pointed in the direction of Jesus. I just want people around me that will encourage me and cheer me on. We would love to hear from you. We would love to be able to get in touch with you and just, make a connection there. If you're in the area, we'd also love to see you at Catalyst Church. That'd be an awesome thing to do. But get together with people who are on board for a noble cause. So King Solomon again talks to us, this time in Ecclesiastes, and he says this: 2 people are better off than 1, for they can help each other succeed. When we get this right, we help each other be more like Jesus and walk in the habits and the ways of Jesus. And we really can do more together. But importantly, Jesus shows us that there's a 500, there's a 72, there's a 12, there's a 3 in his life. But there's also clearly a 1. And that 1 is God. And Jesus knew that he could not do what he needed to do. His purpose was to come and save the world, rescue us from our sin and our mess, rescue us and put us in right relationship with God. But he couldn't do that without a relationship with God himself. So Jesus makes the way for us to be in that relationship with God because of what he's done. We can have abundant, connected, a community-filled life. Each one of us can have that because of what Jesus did. He made a way to have that relationship through dying on the cross so that we are washed clean, we are forgiven, and we can be in that community, that one relationship with God himself. And that's not just for the good, got it all together people out there. You might think that is not me. I am not good enough. You don't know the mess in my life. But that's not who Jesus came for. None of us are perfect. There's no one that exists that is perfect except for Jesus. And he came to rescue us from our mess, clean us up, forgive us, so that we could have that one relationship with God. What's beautiful about Jesus' inner circle is that he had this relationship with Peter, James, and John. And you remember I mentioned that Peter denied him at a really important time. He said, I don't know you, Jesus. I don't know that man. That's like a betrayal. It was, disregarding the relationship that we had. That's pretty hurtful. That's pretty hard to take. But Jesus didn't just cast him out of community, didn't, walk away from him. His words to Peter, later in the piece, his words to Peter just absolved him from that and forgave him and restored him and the relationship that he had with Jesus. It's beautiful. And that's what community can do. And that's what the words of Jesus can do. It's restore us, bring us into right relationship with God, understand who we are, that we are made in the image of God, we're a child of God. And that's what Jesus did and has made available for every one of us. And this is what we can do through the power of Jesus for one another also. So my challenge to you is, who is your community? Where are they influencing you? And maybe right now, maybe this week, there's something you can do to take a step towards a community of people who can propel you towards Jesus. Okay.
Still rolling, Chris?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Jess. And maybe you have some questions for Jess. Please type them in. Now, sometimes you find yourself in places where you're like, how did I get here? Have you ever had that happen to you? I remember being in a line for a roller coaster and I got near the front and I was like, how did I get here? As I look at this ginormous, scary ride that I don't want to be on. Now, maybe that's the case for you today. You're like, how did I get here? What am I watching? And I think that's a really good question. Sometimes I find it's not so much we that find God. We're not looking for God, but it's God that's looking for us. And I think if you're watching this and you're really not sure why, maybe it's God looking for you. So I encourage you to stick around, to investigate more, be curious. You know, I've got Chris back here behind the cameras. Chris has a pretty cool story. He ended up being here helping film this. And Chris, would you be willing to share that? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Maybe next week, hey?
Yeah.
If we get enough comments, you can hear Chris's story. How about that? Sounds good? But coming up this week, we've got some exciting things. We've got Song and Story, an interactive Zoom call where we listen to some songs, hear some stories, and rather moving last week I found. So if you're brave, connect with us on our website and find out more info. We've got a Facebook page as well. If you're in the area, we've got Clean Up Australia Day, 6th of March. That would be really, really great to see you there and connect with you in person. Again, info on our website. But how about I just pray before we go. Dear God, we thank you for everyone watching today. Thank you that you are calling them, that you are looking for them, searching for them, that you want a relationship with them. Lord, I pray that you'll put the right people in our lives that we can encourage and that can encourage us. I thank you for community where we can build each other up, that we can do more together. We pray for all our friends and family that might be going through some things at the moment, for your blessing upon them. Amen.